A very good evening to everyone. So my name is Matt Skuskema. I'm head of business strategy at the E-Residency team. Before I want to introduce our two guests today, I actually want to draw your attention on two developments. So firstly, if you haven't checked out our new marketplace, then it would be a good moment to do that. So we have a number of new service providers that you can have a look at. And also next week, we have an event, a digital event, which has a number of service providers involved as well, covering various topics, which will be E-Residency Digital Summit Germany. So again, you can have a look at our events calendar, and there are some panel discussions on taxation, on Estonia as a startup environment, business ecosystem, as well as how digital governance in Estonia works. And then later on, you can have live discussions with different service providers, also some tax advisors and fintech and banking partners, as well as virtual office providers. And you can also escape when you get bored. You can always escape to watch some master classes about practical aspects of running a company. So this is taking place on the 19th of November. Hopefully some of you can join there. Thank you for this. Now I have time to introduce our guests. Firstly, Chatlin Helm from Xolo. You're a customer success manager. Very happy to have you here today. So Chatlin knows a lot about e-residence and connections, and she's been working with many people, has good experience to share, and also will introduce some of the Xolo's core services today. And then we have a wonderful client of Xolo and an e-resident, one of the early adapters, Kaitlyn Hanrahan. So she became e-resident in 2015 already, and you have been a software engineer, and you have your company Simply, if I'm correct.
Simply Digital.
Simply Digital, correct. Very happy to have you today. So looking forward to hear both of your journeys and then a lively discussion afterwards. Thanks. I'll pass on to Chatlin.
Hi, everyone. I'm here to just to give a quick overview of what are the services that Xolo offers and how we can help you. So I'm going to give a quick presentation with slides and everything. So I hope you're ready to join me. And then after that, we can hear Kaitlyn talk about how she is using Xolo services and how she started as a business owner. Yeah. So so if you have any questions, then ask your questions in the Q&A section, which is under the screen. We'll get to them after all the presentations. So yeah, just wait up. What is Xolo? As we like to call ourselves, we are the home for modern freelancers. And we aim to make it simple and easy for anyone from anywhere to start and run their micro businesses. And how we do it is that we help you incorporate, get a business bank account, and then we have our own automated accounting tool or self-service where you can manage all your business admin aspects. And we'll help you with the monthly bookkeeping and accounting that is needed to keep your business running. So just to give you a quick overview of some numbers so you understand like what we're talking about here. So there are currently over 70,000 e-residents from over 100 countries around the world. The average age group is 26 to 35. So it's youth oriented, I guess. Xolo has over 55,000 signups, and over 5 years, because we've been in business for 5 years now, we've processed over 7 million transactions from our customers. So we're very much in business. So just so you would see how much it would cost, I put up this cost breakdown. So I guess you've done already your research about e-residency because it's an e-residence related webinar. But if you have any questions about e-residency, you can ask them in the Q&A. But the state fee for e-residency is 100 to 130 euros, depending on where you're going to pick it up. The state fee for company registration in Estonia is 190 euros. The state fee for the company owner registration in the Estonian business registry is 25. And the Xolo's first monthly fee is 49 euros. So it all comes down to €409.80. So this is the money you have to put down to start your company, and that's it. Then you have your own company and you can start offering your services to everyone. So yeah, also a quick overview, we have now different products. So we have different monthly fees. So the 79 plus VAT is the basic one, which means you get company registration, business bank account, and monthly accounting. If you want to add payment gateways to this, then you have to opt to our Leap Pro plan, which is €119. And if you think that our automated accounting system is not enough for you and you need more like personal touch, then you will get a dedicated accountant to your business with our Leap Growth plan, which is €199, and it includes all the other features from the lower plans also. So this is just a quick overview, but you can always like contact us at hello@xolo.io, and we can answer all your questions and look over your business needs together. Also, a question that gets asked a lot, or like the main topic when people talk about starting a company in Estonia, is banks and gateways. So yeah, there's a lot of talk about people not being able to open bank accounts. Just to assure you, Xolo has partnerships with 2 banks, which are LHV, an Estonian legacy bank, and TransferWise, which is also an Estonian like neobank. And we have partnerships with both. LHV requires you to travel to Estonia, which maybe currently is not the best solution, but TransferWise can be opened fully online, and you can open a Stripe or PayPal account with it also, or Paddle, which are also supported payment gateways. Yeah. And just a quick note here, we also have another plan called Go, which doesn't require e-residency. So let's say you really want to start your business, but there are travel restrictions in place or something like that, then you can open a company without registering a company with us. So you will enter in a partnership with us, and you can issue invoices under Xolo's name. You can do this in the EU, Canada, and US, and you can offer professional services. It only takes 5 minutes to set up. You will get a dedicated business bank account, and you don't have any monthly fees. You will only pay 5% of on all outgoing payments from that account. You will also get access to the our accounting software. So yeah, this is if you want to like quickly start your business, but you can easily upgrade from Go to Leap and start your own business with your own brand and everything. So yeah, this is actually all for me. This was a quick overview what Xolo does. So I thank you. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them after Kaitlyn's presentation. Kaitlyn is an amazing customer of ours, one of the early adopters, because as she said, she's already been in business for 5 years. And yeah, so she's been with us from the very beginning. So I'm gonna give over the floor to Kaitlyn now, if she's ready.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess it's my turn. I'm Kaitlyn. I'm the owner of the productivity software company Simply Digital, but indie app developer is probably a more accurate title. You can normally find my company at simply.digital issues today. So I'm going to put some, so I put some materials in a document. I can share that. Yeah, that's going to be a bunch of links that I was going to share. Matt says there's a lot of interest in getting started. So I'm going to give like an extra minute on background, a little more story than I perhaps normally would. Before moving on to my topic, which is productivity challenges specific to solopreneurs, then of course there'll be Q&A, or you can even email me. The first stage of my career was very traditional, at least for an American who wants to work in software. I went to Northeast.
Kaitlyn, we're losing you for a couple of seconds, so maybe it is good to do without a video for a moment. Yeah, we're losing you for partly the voice. Sorry. Sorry about that. Italy. I'm allowed to say that I am Italian. Okay, is that good? I can continue with just audio. Okay, so where was I? So yeah, very traditional. And I moved to San Francisco, and I was working as a software engineer at Adobe. So at that point, I was 23 and earning 6 figures with virtually no personal responsibilities.
So the world was completely open to me. And I realized that what I wanted more than anything, especially before I had those personal ties, like a partner or children or a mortgage, was to do more long-term slow travel. Basically not just take a vacation to all the places on my bucket list, but to actually live there. So I plotted and planned for a year, and I sold my things, and I did financial prep, like changing my credit cards to ones without foreign exchange fees, and a bank account without foreign ATM fees. I use Charles Schwab, by the way. It's a perfect bank for Americans abroad. And I learned about freelancing, took Italian classes, and then finally quit my job, which is where I started phase 2 of my career. What happened next was a lot of fun. I drove across the US, I went to Oktoberfest, visited friends, and traveled everywhere. But professionally, even with the advantage of starting off with money and having pretty valuable skills and all that preparation, there was a lot of failure in the beginning. In hindsight, I think it was because first off, as a software engineer, my skills are quite generalist, but also technical. So I had a hard time communicating what it is that I do in order to sell myself. So it was just more difficult to find clients than I anticipated. And second off, it turns out starting a business is a lot of work, and maybe you can do it while traveling, but you can't really do it on vacation. And third off is that even when I finally, stayed still longer and made time, I struggled with productivity, which was new for me. I never struggled with getting things done and being productive before when I had a traditional role. And that last one would be a perfect segue into my actual topic, but I can't leave out the e-residency part of my journey. So when I was contracting, I was a sole proprietor, which is a US business structure that basically requires nothing. There's no line between Kaitlyn Hanrahan, the human, and Kaitlyn Hanrahan, the business. But when I decided I wanted to stop contracting and try being a mobile app developer, then I needed a business structure to legally separate me from my company. And normally that's not too complicated, but if you don't have a permanent country of business, then it becomes very complicated. At the time, I was getting great business consulting from the US SBA. If you're American, that's a really, really great resource, and probably even if you're not American. You could just, check out the resources. But when it came to anything legally, they'd refer me to a lawyer, and the lawyer would refer me to someone more specialized until I was talking to these, international business lawyers that I absolutely could not afford. So basically hitting a dead end. And at the same time, I'm wondering, I'm not the first one to do this digital nomad thing. How does everyone else do this? And then I finally found the answer when I just stumbled across a blog post from Xolo. And then learned about e-residency at the same time as them. So they're my provider, and I can't compare them to the others, but I'm a very happy customer. The details, I'm lucky enough to be in Rome, where there's an Estonian embassy right here. And I'm already on my second digital ID card, and both times I was in and out of the embassy in less than 10 minutes, and that's not even exaggerating. I spend longer than that doing security at the US Embassy. And for my business checking, I actually went a while without one and just doing expenses out of pocket. But then I won, a contest and got to go to the Latitude conference. And while I was in Chatlin, the Xolo people organized my appointment with LHV Bank, as well as afterwards having my new bank card mailed to me, which wouldn't have been possible without them being an intermediary. And now that I have that, everything works nice. It was also a really fun trip. I hadn't been aware of the community around e-residency at that point. And now you can, get into that community really easily because there's Erica with another link. Yeah, so yeah, now that's easier, but I hadn't even known that there was this whole community around, e-residency. And also Tallinn's a really secret gem city. It's gorgeous. Okay, so I think that's enough background. Moving on to my actual topic of productivity. I kind of define productivity as organization and psychology. There are so many different systems and tools, but it's important not to try to force yourself into a system, but to find one that matches your lifestyle. You may or may not have a problem that any particular system or tip is trying to fix. As I touched on, when you have autonomy and very few boundaries in your life, you face different productivity challenges than a typical person in a traditional job. So I'll go over what I think are the biggest ones, excuse me. And hopefully listening to me articulate those challenges in itself will give you some awareness that helps you avoid the pitfalls. I'll also go over a solution for each one, and not just like apps and tips, but a way to approach the challenge so you're not depending on willpower. But speaking of apps, this is where I plug my software. Another link. And if what I say today resonates with you, then you should try my app, because I designed it for me. And if you're like, also, or you're aspiring to be a business owner, then I say at least deserves to be on your list of things to try. But it's really personal, and I'm not going to talk about like tools too much now. So first problem is just organization. I define this as keeping things together that should be together, keeping things apart that should be apart. If you're actually losing track of what you need to do, or if you have a workspace that's full of things that distract you, then organization is your problem. And there is actually a golden standard here, Getting Things Done by David Allen. It is a book. Let me add some links here. It is a book, or as they call it on their website, it's a movement. And here, the Wikipedia link I sent is just like a 2-page summary, and you can get an idea and follow up on any of the parts that interest you. But I'm going to move on because you probably know what you need to do to be more organized or improve your business, but you struggle to actually do it. So I'm going to move on to what I think are the more interesting and more psychology productivity challenges. Excuse me. So the first problem is not enough hours in the day. When I was getting ready to quit, I kept fantasizing about how I was going to have so much time for cooking and exercising and all my hobbies. It somehow never occurred to me that you don't actually get more time when you work for yourself. It's true that you will save time on commuting and you'll have less overhead, but now you have to also run a business besides doing whatever it is you do to provide value to the people who pay you. And you probably also need to be learning a lot too when you're getting started. So you're still working full time. Where would any extra time come from? Basically, there isn't any, unless you're going to work part-time, which I don't recommend at the start. It'd be too easy to work 0 hours accidentally. So I would say, start full time, and when you're established, if you choose to, cut your hours. Okay, the solution for the not enough hours in the day issue is decide how you want to spend your time. This is actually pretty easy, and we can do an exercise for this. So here's a link, and that's a spreadsheet I made, but you could do it either way. The idea here is you're going to decide how you want to spend your 24 hours each day, which is 168 hours each week, the same as you would dollars in a budget. And doing this on paper, or in this case, a spreadsheet, you're almost definitely going to have some epiphanies in the process. For example, I kept beating myself up for not spending more time on my photography. I did this exercise and I realized I was actually spending more time than I ideally wanted to spend on that particular hobby. So knowing this meant I could stop feeling bad about a failure that wasn't actually a failure. Also, I started spending less time on that and had more time for my real top priority, my work. So if you could look at the link, you'll need to go to File and download to make your own copy, so you can like fill in your numbers. Basically, if you're looking at it, there's a list of all the things you want to spend your time on, as well as things you need to spend time on, like sleeping and eating, and then how much time you want to spend on each one. You change like the black weekly numbers. The gray numbers are just being auto-calculated from the weekly number to make them easier to understand, like what that actually means, like 56 hours of sleep a week. What does that mean? It means 8 hours a night. And don't forget downtime. No one can be on all the time. You need some blank nothing time. And when you're deciding how much time for that blank downtime, you need to think if socializing and social media or other kind of pseudo productive activities go in there, or if you're going to count them separately. So you fill it all out, and does it add up to less than 168? It almost certainly will not. And I would actually save this initial version as a memento of how you've probably been beating yourself up for failing to accomplish literally the impossible. And the next step is you go back and take away time from things to get it under 168. And then this is your ideal week. Lots of times, most of the time, it won't be perfect like that, but now you at least know what a perfect week looks like. And more importantly, you've probably adjusted your expectations for your goals, like how I did with photography. And then like a second part of this exercise is, what does an ideal day look like where you're on track to meet those weekly goals? The point of this one is really just to have an image in your mind of what an ideal day looks like, so you can try to make your days match that template as often as possible. Also, you might catch something you forgot to include in your weekly budget. If you've used up all 168 hours, but you didn't remember showering, you're gonna have to go back and make some more cuts. It's this in the same link of the bottom tab there, or you can just freehand it, you know, like in a journal, like what time you're waking up, what time you're gonna, like then getting ready and all the way until you go to sleep. And I redo this pretty often, especially this year as I'm trying to find a normal. So moving on to the next problem is how flexible time feels like more than structured time does. So if you've noticed how, you know, if you have an 8-hour day that every, you know, minute of it is strictly booked, it feels like you don't have a minute to spare. But if you have a more nebulous, you know, 8 hours of work to do, it feels like you do have spare time. I've come up with 2 reasons for this. First, I think we overestimate our abilities, which is also the next section. And then number 2 is that it becomes too much for our minds to keep track of. You know, rather than a day, let's expand the example to a week. And I especially felt this when I was freelancing. Each week I would have, you know, easily a week's worth of things that really should be done by Friday, but none of it absolutely needed to be done today. In that situation, it felt impossible to motivate myself to buckle down. You know, now it sounds like I'm advocating for structure, but personally, I don't want to give up my flexibility. That's the whole point of this lifestyle. You know, so much productivity advice is about forcing the rigidness of a traditional job and lifestyle into one with total autonomy. But why do that? Just get a traditional job at that point. Hold on. Okay, sorry. Sorry, I lost my my space there when it full screened. So yeah, so we choose this lifestyle because we want it, and so I think, you know, keep your flexibility. Now, the solution to this one, this is a more technical, most technical thing that I'll talk about. So the solution is to keep things flexible in the long term, but to schedule down to the hour in the short term. Keeping things flexible in the long term matches reality. When you schedule a task, you know, not an appointment, a task for an exact date and time more than a week away, like, to be honest, like, you're gonna end up rescheduling that. It's really kind of serving as a reminder at that point, you know, but all that rescheduling has negative consequences. One, you know, it's lost time and overhead. And 2, it's demoralizing because it can feel like a failure when you end up justifiably doing something that's more urgent and more important during that time that you arbitrarily picked a week before. You know, and 3, finally, all that random rescheduling means that you don't actually have a true agenda you can look at and know when you're busy and when you're free. These are big problems, and it's why I don't recommend using a calendar for your tasks. If something just has to be done next week, don't arbitrarily pick a specific day until you're planning your week, and the day you pick isn't arbitrary anymore. When you schedule something for a specific day, there has to be a reason that day is the best day for that task, even if that reason is something as simple as you're already, you know, booked all the other days. Then you follow through. You only reschedule if something actually changes, never because you just don't feel like it. So tooling for this, this is the way tasks should be scheduled, and it's the way paper planners have always worked. And a paper planner is a really, really good option. But if you want something digital, oddly enough, you don't have a ton of options. There's my app, and share 2 things here. And as far as I know, my app is the only one that allows you to schedule tasks with different levels of granularity, like month, week, and day and time. Or you can make your own Kanban board. Kanban's a general word for like a Trello board. But if you go for that, I actually recommend ZenKit. I just sent the link. I think it's much nicer than Trello. Or you can just make your own solution with a Word document or a spreadsheet. But, you know, bonus, like if you figure this one out, if you find a way to track your tasks and schedule them in a way to maximize flexibility as well as accountability, you will be so organized. I mean, like finishing Christmas shopping in November organized. Like this is a really, really big win. So moving on to the next problem is you don't even know if you are overbooked or if you have time to relax. This one overlaps with the last one in that it has the same solution. You need an agenda you can trust as accurate. that's not full of arbitrarily scheduled tasks that you don't actually need to be done at the time they're written down and probably won't be done at the time they're written down. So how to know if you have this problem? If you can't answer these 3 questions off the top of your head, then you have this problem. First question is, do you know how many hours of work you've already committed to this week? Do you know if you can get it all done easily or if you'll need to work late a few days? If a good opportunity fell in your lap right now, could you accept it? I can copy them because I know I'm talking too fast. Now, it's really hard to know the answers to those questions when you're tracking all 168 hours of the week mentally. With a traditional job, work is work, and you're just mentally tracking the weekends and those 2 hours each weekday evening. But if you can't answer those questions, then you will always either, on one side, put off too much until the last minute and then either fail or kill yourself to finish, or on the other side, you'll always be working. Even when you have time to relax, you won't enjoy it because you don't realize. And you might be professionally successful that way, but that's no way to live. So, figure this out and you will be more motivated, on Mondays and mornings when it feels like you still have so much more time, but actually you have just the right amount of time, as well as if you're having trouble disconnecting and relaxing. Moving on to the next problem is unrealistic expectations for your future self. We all have this mental version of ourselves, like our most energetic and productive, the version of yourself that can pull an all-nighter and do everything, boom, boom, boom. And we think we can call on that version of ourselves later, even when faced with the evidence of not being able to call on that version of yourself right now. I do this a lot. Now, the solution, so step 1 is to accept it. If you're an adult, that means you presumably have less energy now than you did 5 years ago. Sorry. For me, I really can't count on my best self because I have 2 small kids now, so I'm always tired. So to compensate, I start things insanely early, and I never I can always eventually find that extra energy, but I can't count on it on demand. And step 2 is to be nicer to your future self. This is a cool trick. You think of future you as a different person and treat them with the kindness that you would treat a friend. I've been practicing this one for a little bit, and it brings this odd little joy when I make this a sacrifice for my future self's life. It's a really neat trick. So onto my last problem is knowing yourself and your moods. Knowing yourself is the biggest thing you can do to improve your productivity. But unfortunately, this is the shortest part of my talk because obviously it's so different for every person. All I can really do here is rattle off some tips. So I'll do that. Give me a second. So pay attention to yourself, your feelings, your moods, and your energy level. When you're down, what caused that? What's making it better or worse? And when you get, out of that funk, how did you pull yourself back up? On the flip side, when you're on a roll, take a moment and look around at what's working so well so you can keep those things in place. What tasks do you always put off? And could you permanently delegate them or invent a solution to force yourself to get it over with quickly? Because you waste your time and hurt your morale when you just keep procrastinating. Making regular time for meditation, or if that's not your thing, just stream of conscious journaling where you kind of work through your thoughts on the things like I was just mentioning. And I have a personal example here of knowing myself making a big improvement is if I'm burning out, I've discovered it with myself that I need to stay away from television because if I'm already a little down and I start watching TV, it pulls me down further. So instead I read easy reading YA fantasy, and it gives me that same break and escape, but it doesn't have the same effect as TV. So, in closing on knowing yourself, it just takes time to learn your own patterns, but it's really worth it, not just for productivity, but really any kind of self-improvement. Self-awareness will make it easier. So those were, that's everything. So the problems I listed were organization, not enough hours in the day. We did the spreadsheet. Flexible time, feeling like more time than it really is. So you need a good way to schedule your tasks for the long term and the short term. Not knowing if you're overbooked or have extra time, same thing, you need a good agenda. And not expecting your future self to be able to call on demand your most productive self. And finally, just knowing yourself and your moods. And then that's it. Hope I didn't talk too fast.
Yeah, thank you, Kaitlyn. It's really interesting how you managed to turn a time management and flexibility into a business. And at E-Residency, it's all about e-residents, but also their businesses. So soon when we will launch and grow our company list, so we will have a part on our website where actually e-residents can promote their own businesses to each other and do business with each other. I think it will be a very valuable example. From E-Residency, I would say the times, obviously, the sort of 1 year ago, what we thought about remote work, what we thought about working from home and time management was very different before COVID. So before we go to all these questions, people have a lot of questions on how to create a company, how to do various things as e-resident. I would ask you, what do you see different on especially time management a year ago? Has it become much harder, or have we actually won more time thanks to COVID?
Well, I did mention I have children, so it's harder for me. But I think that there's a lot more awareness now because so many people are working from home, even if they have a traditional job. So there's a lot of talk about it. It's a very hot topic. Because when you're home, you throw in some laundry, right? And then in theory, the machine's doing the work, but you're actually like now, 40 minutes from now, you're going and changing it, and that's breaking up your day. And it actually, even though you think it just takes a second, it can really, really hurt your productivity a lot.
Right. Chatlin, do you want to respond to some of the questions? Because we got a lot of interest, especially in Xolo services and setting up business accounts or banking and other topics.
Thank you, Kaitlyn, for the presentation. I learned a lot because I'm like terrible at time management.
I'm glad.
I'm always like super anxious because like I'm always like leaving everything on last minute, but yeah. But I guess we're gonna take all the company registration related questions now. There are some US questions too.
I did see that. Yes, if you want to come to Europe as an American, you can stay for 90 days in any 180-day period as a tourist when there's not a pandemic happening. Now you just can't come at all. And but then, yeah, you'll need a visa.
We actually have a question to you specifically in the chat just posted. Wondering if you work all alone all the time, or if you have any colleagues, subcontractors, like how do you run your business?
Well, I was going to a co-working space. I think at least someone else is in Rome. I was going to Anti Cafe, but because of coronavirus, I've been working here, and it's a big damage to my productivity, having all the distractions of housework. I'll just quickly fold some laundry, and then I'll quickly do this, and then before you know it, I've lost my best, most dedicated hours. Also, the community was really nice to see those same people at the co-working space every day.
Yeah. I guess that's the hard part about working from home. Like you don't have your community around you, like physically, just like virtually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it is worth like joining online groups, or like under normal circumstances when hopefully this year is over, co-working spaces. I think the in-person, a reason to shower and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm going to take the questions for a while, and then if you have any questions to Kaitlyn, you can post them in the Q&A. Yeah, Harris is declaring that he got his E-Residency package last week. He hasn't opened it or started yet, but he wants to learn how to start things. I'm just like congratulating you, Harris, on becoming an e-resident. Yay. If you want to know how to start, you can go to our website. It's fairly straightforward. You just have to sign up with us. If you have already a business idea, if you know what you want to do, then you just need to sign up with us, share your business plan. We have to say if we can support you. We're going to check it. If yes, then you're going to get your company started in 2 days. Company registration the same day, bank account the next day pretty much, and then you can start issuing invoices. But yeah, if you have any specific questions, you can email us at hello@xolo.io. So yeah, do that. Next, Elio is asking, does Xolo help with company income tax questions in other EU countries, for example, Malta, when having a company through the Estonian e-residency? So currently, Xolo cannot help you with your personal taxation in your country of residence. What we only can help you with is the corporate taxation in Estonia, which you need to deal with when you have an Estonian company. We are working towards being able to do that in different countries. Currently, we're working like investing in doing that in Germany and Spain, but we'll also work on other countries too. So if you need any help with local taxation questions, there are a list of service providers on the E-Residency website, and you can also find local tax consultants. So yeah. Then.
I would maybe quickly then reply that there was a question whether you need to visit Estonia if you operate a business in Estonia. And the idea of e-residency, of course, is that you would never need to visit us for a bureaucracy reason, that you can do anything online and remotely. But of course, you will be welcome for other reasons, such as Kaitlyn visited our startup conference, Latitude. Yeah, that's where I would sum that up.
Yeah.
And also, if you renew your e-residency card, there's a question about chat in it, where there's a special procedure. No, there's no special procedure.
Yeah, actually,
in fact, you just apply again, but we already know who you are, so normally it should work more easily. But then again, also sometimes police just want to know your background, again, what you're doing, how you've been using your card. So they might just ask some questions and for first timers or second timers, but doesn't mean a lot. It's more sort of technical checks they do on people.
Yeah, I'm on my second card, and renewal is basically the same thing as the initial application. And someone said theirs expires in January. I would just apply because I waited until mine was like, I think mine expired in March, and I like waited until February to apply, and then of course everyone shut down, and I went like a couple weeks without being able to sign into anything. But I think nowadays, yeah, just go a little early just in case.
But you can sign up for Smart ID, and then even when your card expires, you can still like sign into things and sign documents because it has a different expiration, but you still kind of need to apply for the card eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we advise people to apply as normal, even though they know that there are restrictions, because any embassy, they can keep your card for 6 months in the normal procedure. And also if you ask them to keep it longer, they can do that as well. Or sometimes you can also change location. So it's still, you shouldn't worry about it. It's, you know, in 6 months, hopefully will be a spring already and things will improve. Yeah.
This is something really nice about dealing with Estonian officials. I don't know if it's just your culture or being a smaller country, but everyone's just very reasonable. It's not like, oh no, I have to do it this way because there's a rule. Like if you ask for something, people can just normally just do it.
There's actually a banking question to you, Kaitlyn. A person is asking, how is the process opening a bank account in Estonia as an American? Are there some banks that don't open accounts for Americans? Like, did you have any issues with your?
So I knew I was going to be going with LHV because that's the one that works with Xolo, and I didn't really have any reason to want to pick a different one. So you guys made the appointment for me. I was there. I mean, there was a fair amount of forms, but just like the same old, you know, your name over and over again kind of forms. So I was there a little while, but I mean, like half an hour, maybe 40 minutes, you know, like with the person who's just like entering it all on the computer, going back and forth. The challenging part was that the card is ready like a week later, even if it's just a couple days, I was already going to be gone. And they can't mail it internationally. But if you're a Xolo customer, then they'll intermediate for you.
Yeah, we have this deal with them that as we are the representation of your company, then they can send it to us and we can forward it to you. Yeah. Just to continue from this topic, then John is asking, what about if you use a different accounting software as well as different payment gateways to support it? I'm talking only from like Xolo's perspective. With us, you can only use our accounting software and our supported payment gateways, but there are other service providers that don't have these kind of restrictions. Why we have these kind of restrictions is because we want everything to be connected to the accounting software, which makes it all automated for you as a user. And we have APIs with the banking, with the banks and with the payment gateways. So that's why it's restricted. If you want to have a more open-ended solution, there are other service providers that don't have their own software, or have different kind of services. So you can check from the E-Residency webpage and see what's the best solution for you.
So I'll answer George's question about being a U.S. citizen. There are, it's probably the more complicated position to be tax-wise, and I don't want to give anything like, I'm not qualified to give very specific tax advice. For me, like, it hasn't really been a problem between keeping money in Google Play and keeping money, in my account. I have not run into those problems that he's mentioning with U.S. citizens have pretty strong restrictions about having any ownership of a company that's abroad. I will repeat advice that was given to me earlier on when I would ask questions like this. You should be so lucky to have that problem, that you have too much money to store abroad. So don't worry about it until you have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there are a lot of questions now. Elio is asking about local tax consultants. Unfortunately, yeah, we cannot help in that field. As I understand much, there is now in the marketplace a specific section for tax consultants who can help in specific countries, right?
Absolutely. So this is a new thing that we launched because we were sort of shying away from giving people tax advice, because as a government institution, we can't tell you where to pay your tax, even though you can connect through our website with the Estonian tax board, and they will tell you, how Estonian systems work and how they see things. But nonetheless, we didn't have any official advice bits, but we had a lot of e-residents who were really confused where they're supposed to pay tax. So we have launched this new section where they're country-based tax advisors. But we don't yet have all the countries covered. We don't have US ones there, for example, but we do have Italy, we have Germany, we have a few other countries, and we're working on expanding on those. And also, if we have e-residents who have good experiences with their tax advisors who work with other e-residents, please tell us, because again, we're looking into growing that section. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I had this question here. Rakesh is asking, I got my e-residency card, but due to certain reasons, I need to postpone starting actual work. But can I, in the meantime, prepare the admin process, such as a bank account, registering the company? If so, how much I would need to spend in order to keep the business? I want to get things ready before the actual work starts. Yes, you can start your company and everything before you start actually, offering your services, or you actually start doing the work. I presented also before, so the initial payment is 190 euro state fee for the company registration, then 25 for the online registration fee, then Xolo's monthly fee, which is 79 euros if you go with the lead plan, but we have other plans too. If you're not doing anything with your company for months on end, then Xolo has a hibernation plan where you will pay a lower fee of 39 euros a month, where you don't have any business happening to your account. And whenever you start having business, you can activate it and then you can start doing business. I don't know if that helps. Otherwise, there are no other fees to having a company. Yeah. So if you want to start, then yeah. But otherwise, like, also starting the company is a really quick process. Like, if you already have the E-Residency card, you can get the company registered in the same day, and then the bank account with TransferWise in a couple of days only. So it doesn't take that much to prepare ahead. So yeah.
There's a question from someone in Italy. Again, I don't want to give specific tax advice, but I agree that one of the reasons I went with e-residency was I also did not want to deal with registering a company in Italy, or the US, where you're taxed very, very heavily. So I don't want to give tax advice, but like a very high level version of it is when you have the Estonian company that e-residents tend to have, you can take dividends and you pay a very small tax to Estonia, or you take personal income, and then Estonia takes no taxes out of that, and you would just pay income tax in Italy or wherever you are currently living, as you would, being paid by any international company. And so it's not too it's just your normal taxes you have to deal with wherever you're living, and it's not as bad as dealing with registering a company in a country like Italy.
Yeah, what Kaitlyn just mentioned is that Estonia has a rule that if you get profits in your company, you're not taxed. These profits are not taxed until the moment you take out dividends, and then you pay a one-time 20% income tax normally in Estonia for that's a corporate income tax, right? And your personal income tax you would pay for sure in the country where you're based, but also in some cases when the company is managed in a country where you live, then technically speaking, the country also has a right to say that sometimes in some cases also the corporate income should be done where the owner or the sole owner lives. But again, it depends on the company structure. It's sometimes a little different on freelancers, but I always say that please, analyze this. But I'm just saying that sometimes the risk is there, that they look at where the owner lives. Yeah.
Okay. Mats, there are also questions about if the embassies in Europe are open at the moment and if people can pick up cards.
So during the last COVID, surge, let's say the winter, spring, and none of our embassies actually closed down when there were complete movement restrictions, when still some people really wanted to have their card and they managed to turn up at the embassy, they normally got these cards. So, and if they didn't, then of course the embassies, could keep it for a while. So that's something you shouldn't worry about. Yeah.
So everything's fine. Go pick up your cards if you're close to any embassy. Hamed is asking about his specific company, which deals with travel and software. And he wants to know if an Estonian bank can help him sell his services. I have to say that I have to look into it more specifically, because I don't know if it's a service that we can support, and I don't know if we can help with the banking and payment gateways here, but contact us at hello@xolo.io and explain your service, and then we can look into it in more detail, because at the moment I don't have enough information to answer. Sorry.
There's a card that is basically, there's a person who received the first card in Estonia and they're wondering if they could get the second card emailed to Washington, DC. Unfortunately, we can't email the second one. Yeah, sometimes Estonian citizens can get their documents emailed and sign them sort of digitally, that they get them home, but unfortunately that is not possible with e-residency cards. But you can send it to New York and pick it up from there at some point. Our embassy in DC also is going under renovation, so they will also not issue cards for a while. Sorry about that.
Francisco is asking about opening a company with multiple partners, if all the partners have to have e-residency cards. This is something that Xolo doesn't currently support. We don't support multiple shareholders, but there are other service providers who do. And the easiest way is that, yes, if all the partners have e-residency, but otherwise you would have to get power of attorneys involved and all these kind of things, and traveling to Estonia might be required. So if you want to do everything online, then yeah, all the partners have to have e-residency cards. But currently, Xolo can't help you. You have to find another service provider for this.
There's a question about the bank cards. Do you get a bank card without an EU address? You actually do have an EU address. Your business has, in my case, I'm assuming it's where you are right now, Chatlin. And
across the street from here.
Okay, well, so yeah, my residency might be, where I am one place, but my business's address is in Chatlin.
Yeah, this is one of the services that that we provide is that you will have an Estonian business address. This is why, like, you can get a business bank account, payment gateways, I don't know, Google My Business, anything that requires you to have a business address in the same country that the company is registered in. Then I saw a question here above.
Oh, this one I could say. Someone was asking about getting all their like legal stuff in order before they start their first day of work. And I mean, I did mine in parallel. I actually started programming my app while I was still trying to figure out how to start a company. And on the topic of productivity, I would be really cautious of using things like administrative tasks or even education postponing you from actually providing value to someone who will give you money. Because until you start providing value to someone who gives you money, you don't really know if you have a business. And so, yeah, you can get started. You know, like I didn't have my bank account for a while and just did all my expenses were out of pocket. You know, it was fine.
You just hope for the best.
I mean, you should, like I said before, like you should hope to have those problems that you have more money than you can easily manage. You know, to just assume that everything's going to blow up really fast may or may not happen that way. And if it does, pay someone to help you fix it.
Yeah. So are there any questions that I've overlooked that need? Okay,
there's a question. I have a startup in the US. Does E-Residency of Estonia have a recommended location list for people like me if I decide to move my business there? So firstly, we just launched a Bring Your Business to Estonia, part of our new website at E-Residency. So you could have a look at that. Then also Startup Estonia is actually probably the best organization that you could have a chat with. In Estonia, the way the law works is that you can register your company as a startup. So the company will be recognized officially as a startup company in Estonia by the government. So you have to apply for that status. Startup Estonia is the right organization to do that with. Essentially, your company has to be less than 10 years old. It has to be a highly scalable and sort of tech-related business model. And that is basically the government definition of a startup. And then you're also liable to move to Estonia as a founder more easily without any, normally any salary requirement. And also you're allowed to also sometimes bring some employees from outside the European Union to work with your startup, and again, without a salary requirement. And of course, you can get support you know, from Estonian startup ecosystem as an Estonian startup. Thanks.
Super. Yeah, Manuel is asking, does a company in Estonia require an impressum on their page like German websites? And in case it doesn't, does this apply even if the company owner is a German resident? Yeah, your personal residence doesn't play any effect here. It matters where the company is registered in, and if the company is registered in Estonia, then there is no such requirement, so you don't have to have an impressum on the page. So yeah, but you can have it if you want to. Okay, Francisco is asking a good question. How about closing the company? Is it a usual simple task? Actually, it's a very lengthy process with a lot of documents being prepared, but you can hire someone to do it for you, and then you don't have to kind of do anything. If you don't have any outstanding debts and you just want to close the company, then it takes like around 6 months to close it, during which you just have to prove that all your finances are in place and you have to sign all the documents and these kind of things. So yeah, for example, Xolo can do that for you, or you can find another service provider for it. It's not like complicated per se, it's just a lot of paperwork. So yeah. So it's not complicated. Yeah. Sebastian is asking, are there any restrictions on what kind of business or say business consultancy can we register as with Xolo? Yeah, there are some restrictions with Xolo. We currently support only one-person companies that don't have, there are, well, flights are closing down, that are location independent, so they don't have any physical presence in other countries outside of Estonia, and don't deal with physical products. So if you have business consultancy, that's fine. But if you do financial consultancy, then this is something that requires a license in Estonia. And then we don't also support companies that require a license. So you can check from our website, from our FAQ, there's a list of services that we do support and which we currently cannot support. Yeah, xolo.io. Okay, I don't know. Are there any, cat is here. Hungry cat. Are there any more outstanding questions or something that we need to take care of?
I would say that I really encourage you, anyone who's in a process of will I create a company, really to talk to a service provider such as Xolo and discuss your business case and ask all these specific questions in one go. That's really the best way to do that. Also, there's a lot of information on knowledge base. Again, if you're from a German-speaking country or you find this country is relevant, the next Thursday on the 19th, we'll have a big event where you can talk to many partners and really get a lot more detailed information. So Digital Summit Germany, you can check that out. And you can always write to our support as well, our support channel at the E-Residency website.
Yeah, and you can always contact us. We have email support. You can also schedule a call with us, and our consultant doesn't cost you anything. You only start paying when you actually sign up with us and start your company. So we'll answer all your questions in detail and go through your business description and see if we're the best match for you. So yeah, don't hesitate to contact us.
I can verify that they're very helpful and they answer all your questions.
Yay.
There's just one last question. There was a question about tax for startups in Estonia. And as actually Kaitlyn mentioned before, that Estonia has this tax system that's very beneficial, where there's an international tax ranking that looks at all the OECD countries, and Estonia comes up #1 probably each year and year and year. So we don't have exceptions because there's a very good tax system for everyone. But there are other support measures, of course, for startups. And one of them is the immigration exception that you get with the startup visa program. Another thing is just the ecosystem and the opportunity that you can walk into a lot of other startups and really get a lot of knowledge and experience from them. And that's the reason we have so many startups in Estonia that are successful. Yeah, but I would really like to thank the both of you. Very inspiring stories. Kaitlyn, especially, really happy to hear stories from e-residents, and that e-residents are real people, not just numbers. We have almost 75,000, but it's so nice to also see your business and you being inspired by what you do, and that we were part of that journey. I'm very happy to have that, and hopefully this will continue for many years. Chatlin, also thanks for the insights for Xolo. Xolo is a valued partner for us, almost as old as E-Residency, and then we hope that this will also continue for much longer. And for anyone who listened, join us again. Perhaps next Thursday already, and have a very nice evening. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us.
Thanks for listening and thanks for having me.
Ciao.
Yeah, ciao.